This is Stephen Razor. As you know, I hate human beings, and you're listening to WithoutYourHead.com.
Welcome to the Station of Decapitation Without Your Head. I'm Nasty Neil.
This is Annabelle Lecter.
Yes, and joining us is inmate number 109 from Human Centipede 3, the final sequence. We're joined by Carlos Ramirez.
Hey, what's going on, guys? So happy to be here at, what to see you got with Without Your Head. Awesome.
Yeah.
It's been only about maybe a week, a little over a week now since the premiere.
What was that like for you to see the movie and to be at the premiere with everything going on?
Well, whenever you do a film, you never know what you're going to get. And, when you're on set, you have a whole different perspective. But rest assured, after I saw that film, I had to get a shot of whiskey. It's outrageous. It's Tom Six. It's very Dutch. It's I wouldn't say it's like over the top, but it's in your face.
Uh-huh.
So
It's pretty crazy. When we were leaving at the end of the night and we were some of the last people out of the actual theater entrance, and Aki stood there with his wife with his face kind of slack and said, "That was a crazy movie." And then he paused. "That was a crazy movie." That's pretty much the end of this night. It was kind of funny. I did not expect it. I don't think really anyone expected it. It was wild.
yeah, I don't think that anybody expected it to be what it is, because when you're just so busy concentrating on the environment that you're in. I mean, think about it. You're surrounded by about 500 men on set wearing inmate outfits. And the tensions are pretty high. It's about 98 degrees to about 105 degree temperature. And so you have no idea what you're going to expect. And after the screening or the premiere, I think everybody was left in silence wondering, oh my gosh, what did they just see in film? It was definitely pushing boundaries for statewide film, theatrical film release. And my girlfriend said, okay, so you're in that movie.
What do you think? I mean, you actually had some lines in this thing, though. So how did you feel about how that turned out?
Well, yeah, I'm happy. I'm really happy with it. I think that, as long as nobody throws tomatoes at me, I think I'm okay.
Now, you said, it's a lot different than what you expected while you're filming the movie. Did you, obviously, I think you would know that there was humor in the film, but did you know it would be such a comedy?
With these kind of films, you have no idea. You just rely on the professionalism of the directors. And, for being such a violent, highly, octave film that someone like Tom Six would make, you would think that his behavior on set would be, pretty extraordinary. But you know what? He was such a professional, such a nice guy, that he left all the actors to do their work. And, him working with his sister Ilona, they're just great to work with. And, I would just push the idea that anybody, if you get the chance to work with them, you're actually lucky, because they take care of everybody on set, and they expect everybody to do their job. And of course, to give you with that liberty for you to do your job, you're left on your own to do your work, and he'll give you any tips if necessary. But when you're on set, you do your work, and it's good luck to see if you work or you do a good job or not. And I was, very fortunate to work with those guys. But of course, the irony of all that is where you're working at. And we were working in a prison camp in, I believe, in Lancaster, Palmdale. And it's a bit freaky when you're there, because you know that people were actually there about a decade ago. And so you have that weird feeling that you're like, okay, am I in prison? Or it's just not a comfortable feeling. But to answer your question, you have no idea what you're going to expect, and the results are what the film is. And you're left with your mouth wide open, wondering, "Oh my gosh, did this really happen?"
Literally.
Exactly. The person in a Human Centipede would think.
No,
Yeah, wondering what this is really happening. Yeah.
were you a fan of the first two films?
It was the answer to yes, I was. Because as an actor, you want to see something that pushes all the boundaries. And I mean, you think about it. You think 1973 when they came out with The Exorcist, and I mean, it wasn't for shock value. It was more like, an artistic point of view from the writer and the director. So throughout the decades, you see how we have Saw back in the millennium. And, of course, now we have the Human Centipede. And when I saw the first one with Aki, I said to myself, I would never want to be in that position. And rest assured, with part 3, I was very lucky. I was never in that position.
I was actually going to ask about that, if you were happy or kind of upset or in a way depressed that you weren't an actual part of the Centipede. Not to spoil the film.
That's okay. I prefer eating sandwiches.
Even if you have to, that's all right.
I believe inmate 109 enjoys his stoma bag.
Yeah.
So you said it was, it was really hot when you guys were filming. So how grueling would you say, the filming was on set?
Oh, it just, it was. I think that. Because I was never fortunate to work with Brie Olson, which, I met her at the premiere. She's a wonderful woman. And because while on my scenes, it was just all guys. And, of course, you have, the crew that were there. But the mindset is that you're working with a whole bunch of men wearing jumpsuits. And so when the tensions are high, with temperatures that high, your mind is focused on doing the work. And when you're stuck with a bunch of men who are sweating their balls off, it's not much fun.
That's always been my motto.
Person that, in this experience, that you felt you bonded with the best, that you had the best time with, that you got the most out of?
Yes, I actually did, because, when you're working with actors like Robert Lasardo, you never know what you're going to get. And, of course, you got Tiny Lister. That guy is a giant. I stood next to him, and I felt like Frodo next to Gandalf. So, you can only imagine. And then, of course, while you're on set and you're strapped on a bed with of course, Lawrence Harvey and Dieter Laser, like they're approaching you and acting all crazy. It's pretty intimidating.
Well, what is Dieter like on set? Because he's a very very intense guy when you talk to him.
Yeah, just don't piss him off.
Were you witness to anyone pissing off Dieter?
It's funny because people would walk like near him, and as soon as they got close to him, they would walk in like this weird circle around him, not to get close to him. So.
He'll be on the show next week, so we're looking forward to that. And in contrast, what's Lawrence like? Lawrence Harvey.
That guy, Lawrence. Man, I love him. You would never expect. When you see part 2, he is so the opposite of that character. He is such a loving guy that you just don't want to. Disappoint him in any way. I think with Dieter, you just don't want to piss him off, and with Lawrence, you just don't want to disappoint him. Because, of course, with Lawrence, you never know if he might come to your house knocking on your door with that character in mind. That's also pretty scary.
Exactly. I know exactly what you meant. The first time I met Lawrence was right after I saw part 2, and I didn't see any interviews or anything with him. And I was thinking, I wonder what this guy's like, if he's like he is in the movie. And then you see him, and he's, very well-spoken, very intelligent, just a really sweet guy.
Yeah, it's and I think that, with the level of intensity and sincerity that Lawrence has, along with Dieter. I would definitely work with those guys again, especially because how professional they both are. You know that they're doing the work, and it shows. And I mean, whether the reviews state that Dieter and Lawrence's character are out of the bounds, you know, the good thing is that they're getting reviews, and they're causing these type of reviews because, well, if the shoe fits, they made it happen, and they're causing controversy.
In ways that the other ones didn't.
I have to, you know, you think about films like Hostel, which did have an impact. And, of course, I think that brought more of the international appeal to the States with underground movie watching. And, of course, you know, when the Human Centipede Part 1 came out, I think that it came out like wildfire. So many people were talking about it. It wasn't mainstream. It was something that you talked about with your friends and probably family, and said, "Have you seen this movie? Can you believe this?" Blah blah blah. And like people are actually eating crap. What? It's an insane idea, but it's an original idea. And that type of concept of what Tom Six has done really pushed boundaries and set a different tone for filmmaking. And of course, going back to what I said earlier, you got to thank the Dutch for such extreme measures. You know, you take something like this, and of course, people are going to open their eyes. I mean, think about it when. Two Girls, One Cup came out.
And you avoided watching that. Miraculously, I haven't had to deal with that one yet. Human Centipede, I'll watch a million times. That's not real. Two Girls, One Cup.
I have the Criterion edition.
No.
But you mentioned Hostel and, of course, Human Centipede movies. Are those the kind of films you like? Are you into horror movies? Are you into intense films?
Yeah, I think that it's not just for the idea of horror movies. I'm into intense characters. I think that's important. I do like the idea of making horror films as long as I'm able to play those type of characters that make no sense in society, but when you see them on film, you go, I don't want to be next to that guy because he's creepy.
So, how did you get involved in the film?
Well, luckily, Eric Roberts and I have the same agent at Sovereign Talent Room. It's Peter Young, and he said, hey, you know what, they're looking for this particular role, but in order for you to get this role, you have to do a conversation with Tom Six. But before you do that, you need to watch Part 1 and Part 2 and tell him what you think of the films. I said, well, I've seen Part 1. Let me check out Part 2. Wow.
So what did you tell him as far as what you thought of the films?
I said, as long as I'm not part of the Centipede, let's work.
You know, your reaction is wow when you see Part 2. How do you compare Part 1 and 2?
I think that, you know, Part 1 and Part 2, Part 2 goes hand in hand with Part 1, especially because of the fact that you think of Lawrence's work, and he's he's a copycat, and so the story goes on. So I think that, you know, those two go well back to back. You can see one right after the other. And I'd have to agree when people say, well, Part 3 is not really linked to Part 1 and Part 2. I agree on the storyline that it doesn't connect with it. However, with the concept of 500 people doing this Human Centipede, it's a story of its own. I mean, I know because it's a Human Centipede, so it has to be Human Centipede Part 3. But it's its own story.
What do you think of the idea of, I mean, obviously this is a farcical story, but of perceiving some Americans as the kind of people who would actually want to do this? Because there are people who would actually want to do this and would think this is a great idea.
I think we should start off in Guantanamo Bay and then work our way up to the prison institutions in America. No, I don't know. Honestly, I think it's... I don't know what to say about that. I think it's pretty twisted, but if people do that, good luck. That's definitely beyond the 50 Shades of Grey.
Well, I don't necessarily mean people who will actually do it, but you know how you sit around with your friends and say that's a good idea? Like Tom Six originally came up with the idea saying that people who do extreme crimes like rape, they should take him and sew his mouth to the ass of a trucker. So, you know, that kind of thing. So what do you think about that kind of mindset in general?
Well, let's see here. There is that scandal with the FIFA, right? So maybe we should bring those guys back to the States, and we could try it first on those guys.
When he says that, though, I always wonder, what about the poor trucker? What'd he do? Why does he have to get someone sewn to his ass?
Can he sew?
Yeah, but he's got to walk around with a guy stuck to his ass.
Have to make a special for the truck.
What was that?
To make a special seat for the truck, like a whole new kind of co-pilot. What?
What do you think about the prison being named George W. Bush Prison?
Perfect.
It is very fitting. I think instead of 50 Shades of Grey, as you said earlier, it should be 50 Shades of Brown. That could be the tagline for the film.
Well, you know, the choices were, like I said, either George W. Bush or John McCain or the Sarah Palin. I don't know, but I think George Bush was a perfect choice.
Mm-hmm. You did mention the some of the reviews earlier. Do you pay a lot of attention to those? Do you seek them out and read them, or do you try to stay away from them?
I'm sorry, what?
For the reviews of the film, is that something you try to seek out to read, or do you try to stay away from them, or what are your thoughts on the reviews of the film?
You know, when it comes to reviews on film, like just like opinions, everybody has one, and I just don't really pay attention to that, especially because, you know, you're going to get positive or negative reviews. As a matter of fact, there's one review that said there's an uncredited actor named Ethan Ramirez from Napoleon Dynamite who was part of the Human Centipede 3. I'm thinking, wait a minute. That's my twin brother. Why would they name my twin brother when you can actually do the research online? So if these bozos, you know, do the research, then they can write a great review. But you can tell some of these guys they just don't do their homework.
That's pretty bad. There was I saw actually some people post that on our Facebook page, not in a negative way. They were just saying, you know, it's vote for Pedro, now he's in the movie, and
no.
Just what goes through your head when you see that, though? Just that, you know, if they would have done some research, it would not have even thought this.
Well, I mean, I could understand if this was 2005 with the, you know, like internet being not so hot, but it's 2015. Like, Google that shit, you know? Come on.
Yeah. Now, when you were at the premiere itself, you know, before the actual movie, and you were meeting everybody and stuff, what was that experience like for you?
It was just great because I haven't seen the cast members for about 2 years, and to see them 2 years later, you have that level of anxiety. You have no idea what you're going to expect, and you go back to yourself after such a gruesome film shoot because everybody's so involved with their work that once you're done with set, you just want to go home and cry. But seeing now these guys, you know, from looking at Robert and looking at Clayton and Jay, it's like, wow, I actually saw Jay and I actually saw his face because he was covered with that face mask.
Was this the hardest film you've worked on?
I'd say this is right up there with my other project that I did. I did a film called The Guruphobia that's supposed to be coming out in theaters at the end of this year, directed by let's see here, Richard Monteres and Jade Puga. I play a transgender. So I think that, doing research for playing a transgender was, I wouldn't say that difficult, but it took a lot of time for that, like 3 months to prepare.
No,
Tell us a little bit more about the movie.
Well, rest assured, when my girlfriend says, honey, I need another 2 hours to get ready, I say, take your time. I get it.
So, well, you said that movie comes out later this year, and, like Annabelle asked, tell us some about the movie. What can we expect?
Well, it's a dark comedy, and it's about a girl who's agoraphobic, and it's basically, I played Sandra, her best friend, who's a transgender, who gives her the support in helping her get out of this phobia. She encounters a guru from India who helps her with the sense of enlightenment to get out of her phobia. So
Sounds very interesting.
Yeah. For people that would be listening to this show, what would be some other roles you think people would be interested in? Who saw you in Human Centipede, or into horror movies, or into weird movies, or just movies in general that you would like people to seek out?
Let's see here. I think that they would definitely, obviously, Human Centipede is one of my favorites, and especially from seeing everybody's work on it. And of course, a Guruphobia that comes out in theaters at the end of this year. And then another one called Speed Dragon, directed by Dan Frank. I had a chance to work with Burgundy Phoenix and Bai Ling on set. It's about a rock and roll band and their upheavals in the world of fame and drugs.
You said, it was hard work to do the research to play a transgender. What were some of the things that that you researched? Would you read stuff online? Would you talk to anybody? Can you kind of tell us about that?
Yes. As a matter of fact, my girlfriend and I, we took several trips out to West Hollywood. We're playing, actually going out to a place called the Abbey. And so I spent some time there at a place called the Rage. And I think that as an actor, you want to go through that experience. You want to go through the changes. You have to first, just take the idea of how your normal life, what you normally do on a day-to-day activity. Then, of course, when you're surrounded by that environment, it's a little awkward at first when you have a set of balls on your face by all these guys who are dancing around you. And you're like, okay, I guess, but in order to be truthful to the character, you have to go through the motions. And, it took me about a while to shave my legs, but you got to do it. And you take, for example, Jared Leto in the Dallas Buyers Club. I mean, he did such a phenomenal job. So as an actor, you want to go to that level. You want to increase the stakes that way. And so you start wearing women's clothes. You start sleeping in women's clothes. You put on your nails. You put on your makeup. You put on your wigs. And you make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
If you could pick from maybe some of your favorite movies, a role you would love to have been able to do, what are some of the roles you would pick?
Oh, wow. I'd say I would love, if I had the chance to do a remake, or if I was in any way, shape, or form to do this film, it would be Murder by Death.
Oh, awesome. I love that movie. Alec Guinness.
I mean,
that's sick.
You got to admit, Peter Sellers, genius. Truman Capote, Alec Guinness, and all in the same film. Maggie Smith, come on.
It's an all-star cast of hilariousness. That makes me very happy that you brought that movie up. Which character would you want to be?
I'd have to say I'd work as the butler.
So you just go straight for Alec Guinness.
Yes.
No, I was gonna say you mentioned your twin brother earlier, and I'm just wondering how, like, when did you both decide you wanted to be actors, and was it always both of you wanted to do it, or was it something one of you wanted to do and then the other one wanted to do, or how they come about? And it's interesting that both of you guys are in acting.
Yeah, that's so true. We grew up in an area called Lincoln Heights, which is right next to downtown Los Angeles. And growing up with brothers, 5 brothers, our parents had two jobs, so they put us in all these extracurricular activities as kids. And so my twin brother and I, we grew up in the theater world in our church parish. And then eventually, when they were doing filming in our local area, we got asked to be the twins in this TV show called Helltown that starred Robert Blake, who right after Beretta in the late 70s, he did that show called Helltown. And one thing led to another. We really liked doing TV shows. We actually booked our first movie gig, which we thought were really cool, doing it with an actor by the name of Lou Diamond Phillips. There's a scene in a film called La Bamba, right in halfway through the film, when you see Esai Morales riding up in his motorcycle through the desert picking up his brother. There's these kids in the background. That's me and my twin brother.
Oh, very cool. I remember seeing that in the theater.
Wow.
I don't remember that particular scene, but I remember seeing. Now I'm gonna have to look and find that. That's very cool, though.
Has that worked against you having? Obviously you guys are identical twins. Has that ever worked against you guys, or do you kind of respect one another and say, "I'm not going to touch that role. That's all you"?
It actually has happened. I mean, I've gone to a few auditions in my time, and where the casting director said, "Hey, can you do the close thing to the Pedro, your brother's work?" And I said, "Really? Really? Come on." But it's funny because most people think that that Pedro character is what my brothers really like, but no, it's not. That movie Napoleon Dynamite was not a documentary. It's a film. So I thought it's pretty funny because people have this level of expectation that you are the character that you portray on film, and that's not so true. But yeah, I do go to auditions, and there are several casting directors who have said, "Well, can you do this character?" I'm like, "No, thank you so much." I think that I'm more interested in doing, like I said, intense and unbalanced characters, being true to characters that rarely are seen through society.
How hard is it to fight against that? And you were talking about people, trying to have you do your brother's role, and then even your brother being typecast as this one character, a lot like Lawrence Harvey, having that Martin fall. He was amazing in it, but Ned's followed him around since then in some ways. So how is it trying to fight that?
I think it's a constant battle every day. I think for the past 10 years, there's always that one person, "Hey, Pedro," and like, you just had to be the one, right? Awesome. It gets old.
Do you still do any theater work?
Actually, no. I'm actually preparing for a film called The Pizza Joint, and I'm lucky to be working with Robert Lusardo again.
Oh, nice.
And which we'll be shooting in Texas for that. So theater, I would love to go back to theater in about maybe 6 months or a year from now. But just to go back to doing the work. But right now I'm very lucky to be doing some other film work, independent film mainly.
You mentioned Robert a few times, and anytime we've met him, he's just a great guy, and he's really well spoken. During the Q&A after the movie, he had a lot of nice things to say. What is he like as a person and to work with?
Robert, he's such a professional. He's so he's a philosopher. I like the idea that he can always convey the point of view, leaving you with some good feedback about life. And working with him on set, you could tell that you can expect nothing but the best from him.
Earlier when you brought up saying you had to take a shot of whiskey after the movie, I was curious. What is your drink of choice? What kind of whiskey?
Jameson.
James. All right.
Neil's very anti Jack Daniels.
I'm more of a bourbon guy, but Jack Daniels really isn't bourbon. But I won't go into that rant. But Jameson's totally different. Yeah. Any cocktails? Any drink of choice besides, or do you just straight up whiskey man?
No, actually, my drink of choice would actually be absinthe.
Okay. Now, like the kind you get in the United States, or like, or the real kind?
The real kind.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had any. So.
It's going to be your favorite. You got to really make it count.
Exactly.
I highly recommend it.
I'm not a fan of licorice. Is my only problem with the absinthe.
Yeah.
I think if you try the after effects, you'll be a big fan.
All right. I'll have to seek this out. So what is besides people reviewing online and stuff? What is the reaction to Human Centipede 3 been like amongst your fans and people you know?
I think that most people are wondering, like, I think that especially because people have seen my brother's work, and now they're beginning to see my work, and the Human Centipede 3 has been a good stamp for me in the film industry. So now people are understanding that I can actually go or push those boundaries, and I'm willing to do this type of work. And so I think that they'll be expecting or seeing me more involved with projects that push boundaries, from horror to dark comedy to action films.
Are there any films you've seen that you feel really go too far? Like Neil and I like a Serbian film and a few other really, really dark movies. Are there ones you just say, no, this is not cool?
Not that I have anything against the porn industry, but that's not my cup of tea.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
I'd actually.
And going back to that, I think that I'm very proud of Brie Olson with all the choices that she's making now. Mm-hmm. She's stepped away from that industry, and now she's working on actual film. And this is a good stepping stone for her to do more films in the American or even international market.
Yeah, I was really. I thought that was really nice. Her in the Q&A, she seemed genuinely happy to be part of it, and everyone was saying how hard she worked, and Dieter was saying that she's a real trooper on the set and wasn't afraid of the subject matter or to be kind of physical on set. And I thought she came off really well during that Q&A.
Yeah, and especially because of the fact that she was surrounded by a bunch of men on set. You would think that someone with her history in film, that she would come off pretentious, but on the contrary, she was really sweet, really nice, down to earth, and she never made it about herself, and she was very appreciative. And seeing someone like that, you definitely want to work with someone like her again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the fact that she pointed out that she had basically special treatment on set, I thought that was really kind of nice of her to acknowledge, hey, I know this happened, and I'm sorry, guys.
You'd mentioned, your parents, had you guys kind of get in the theater world. What's it been like for them to see, both of you being, on film?
My mom and dad, they're very supportive. I'm lucky to have them, and sometimes they don't understand some of the things that we do as actors, but nonetheless, they're very supportive. I'm sure my parents are, they're fans of me being an actor, and but to some measures, they won't see some of the films that I've done because of the content.
Right.
But the interesting part, though, is that while going home to my parents' house, and I dressed up as a woman to prepare myself for this other film role. My mother loved it. She said, "Oh my gosh, I finally have a daughter." So. And she said I look better as a daughter as a son. Like, oh, thanks.
Did you keep any of the clothes? You know, like, you know what, this is kind of comfortable. I might keep it.
You never know when you need a Halloween costume.
Exactly. Yeah, you never know. There's we talked to a lot of people from the other Human Centipede movies, and a lot of the dialogue was ad-libbed. Was any of your stuff ad-libbed, or was it straight from the script?
It was straight from the script. I think that I mean, I know there are films that you can actually do the ad-lib, you can improvise, but I think with the content of what Tom Six has written, I mean, that guy's a true artist, and you want to give him the respect that he deserves. So, I went exactly what was dictated.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Tom Six, do you know any of the story with his helper that he had in L.A., the black little man who was carrying around his ashtray?
Oh, the ashtray that I have on my desk?
No, you have the ashtray.
Yes. Yes. I was lucky to get that. He goes, "Here you go." I'm like, awesome. I thought it was great. I thought it was a great showmanship. I think that that was, I think, to cause it caused a stir. People were wondering why that the guy's there to carry his ashtray, and I thought that was pretty funny.
I was a big fan. It made me want one of my own. What were you saying, Annabelle? Sorry.
I said it's Tom Six. You people know this by now. It's Tom Six. This is what he does.
Yes, it's Tom Six. You can, like, Tom Six has his ways, and he's a true artist. He's never going to change, and no one would ever want to expect him to change, because if he changed, he wouldn't be Tom Six.
Yeah. The day that people stop saying "what the fuck" to Tom Six is the day it's all over.
I thought it was really, as you pointed out earlier in the interview, and it was pretty much universal for people in the Q&A, people I've ever heard in interviews, that even though he has this crazy persona, that when you work with him, he really is a nice, a good guy.
Oh yeah, he's very. You could tell that he's very meticulous with his work, and I think that he's a director's director because he's continuously visualizing where the camera's going to be at, the camera angles. He's looking at the crew, and he's looking at the lights. He's making sure that all the actors are taken care of. So you could tell that there's a lot going on with him, that any interruptions would not be needed, or would have serious results. Yeah. You probably getting shot on set. I don't know.
So when you're seeing Human Centipede 3 for the first time, and a lot of your scenes, what you film, but when you're watching it, what were some of the scenes that you saw for the first time? You're like, whoa, I didn't expect this to be in the movie. Without spoiling it too much.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Seeing Robert's genitals being butchered as the way they did, and I said, wow. I mean, I knew this guy. Well, I mean, it was just a very gross scene. It was like I was cringing into my seat when I saw that scene.
Yeah, I think most guys probably were.
Yeah, and just Robert's work, seeing it on film and seeing him like go through that type of torture. Oh my gosh, it's just like, ugh. I can feel it in my spine right now. It's just, ouch.
Yes. So that's not a movie you'd bring over to the parents' house, like Thanksgiving. We're all going to sit around and watch Human Centipede 3.
No.
You never know. How If people they don't know already, how can they find you online? What's the easiest way to get in touch with you if they want to find out what you're up to?
The way to get in touch with me, they can find me on my Twitter, which is, living in LA, if I had a Twitter that said just Carlos Ramirez, that would be like 35% of the population in LA. So, I put just my middle name. It's going to be like C as in Charlie, Ramsey Ramirez, and they'll find me on Twitter.
Now, the Ramsey, is that your middle name, or is that a nickname?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
Right. It's my middle name. So it's my name is the whole entire name is Carlos Ramsey Ramirez.
Cool. Now, I guess it's kind of early yet, but has any fans from the Human Centipede 3 sent you anything interesting?
As a matter of fact, I was so happy that I don't know if you guys saw that person. Her name was Barbara. She was wearing a shirt with a Human Centipede picture on it, and it said Inmate 109. She made one for herself, and she got me one.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, her at the bar. She's super cool.
Yeah. That was awesome. I was thinking, really? Inmate 109? Awesome.
Awesome. Very cool.
Mm. Do you know if the number 109 is significant in any way, or is it just a random number?
I think it's just a random number, but I'm sure Tom has his reasons of why he actually has these numbers, but he would be able to answer that question.
Yeah.
Yeah, his inside joke.
Yeah, I thought to myself, inmate 109. Okay, am I going to be the 109th person in the centipede? Hope not.
There was I almost was one of the centipedes at one point in time, the third one, but it didn't work out.
Wow, what happened? You missed out on the opportunity of free food.
Yeah, it was. I sent pictures in and all this stuff, and I sent pictures of showing like the emotive eyes and all this stuff, and it came down to like, oh, are you an LA native? And I was like, no, I live in Massachusetts, but then they're like, oh, well, we can only use people who live in LA. And since then, everyone told me you should have just lied and said you lived with me. But
well, and maybe in the days ahead we can all do a reenactment, right?
Next time you're in LA. Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know about this one, but it'd be an excellent photo op, I guess. And by the way, Annabelle painted me the tie, which you like. That it is really an amazing centipede tie.
I need to get a copy of that tie. I need to find a tie just like that.
Well, is it?
No, I paint ties. You want a tie?
Yeah, right now it's a one of a kind hand painted tie by Annabelle.
I can do another one of a kind.
Oh my God.
I can do more than one.
I would love one. I would absolutely wear it.
That'd be sweet. That would be sweet. Mm-hmm. So we'll see.
Yeah, perhaps.
We'll get to your hand painted tie.
Yeah, perhaps it'll be coming to Without Your Head for people out there who would like an Annabelle Lecter hand painted centipede tie. Pretty sweet.
Any tie, and I'll paint it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Perhaps an inmate.
Very marketable.
I think so. So you got the you mentioned the other movie coming out the end of this year. Any other projects in the works that you'd like to mention?
Well, yeah, like I said, I have Speed Dragon coming out, and then I have a Guru Phobia coming out, and I also have another project that I'm also working on. It's called Here's Jane by Jolene Lentz, and where I play a pothead. So it's I'm lucky. I have all these different projects that are coming out either in theaters or on video on demand. So
if you could name any one person, whether it's an actor, whoever, that's been the most influential on your acting career, who would it be?
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Nice.
Oh, what's more?
It's Daniel Day-Lewis, of course, Philip Seymour Hoffman, obviously Alec Guinness, Jared Leto, Heath Ledger, Jack Nicholson. these guys are all true masters of their craft, and knowing that there are actors that are out there who have pushed the boundaries of understanding what acting is all about, I think those are the best influences that we have. You know, I mean, you got actresses like Meryl Streep, who every film she touches turns to gold. And when you have people like that who, like I said, push the boundaries, they're just great role models for any actor, and especially for me. I'm just grateful that they've done their work and they set the path for young actors to do their work.
Well, any particular Daniel Day-Lewis role? I'm really partial to Bill the Butcher.
Absolutely, Gangs in New York. Yes,
that's one of my all-time favorite movies. I think that's the most underrated Scorsese film.
I agree. I think we should have Bill the Butcher statue in New York. A little 5 points.
I'm totally behind this. I think we should start a campaign.
I'll make a little
What was that?
version as an example that they can build from.
Exactly. But yeah, that's just a tremendous role. It's totally different from anything I've seen in movies. It's a great villain, and you know, in his own mind, he's not a villain. It's just an amazing performance. So.
Yeah, and what's interesting is the irony of how he throws the knife at Abraham Lincoln's picture in that film, and then years later for him to portray Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, actually, I never thought about that. That is very interesting. I actually haven't seen his performance as Lincoln.
I thought he was great. I thought with Sally Field to give him that support, I think that he did a brilliant job. I mean, there's no one else who can pull that. Maybe Gary Oldman, but yeah, he nailed it. He was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
With Daniel Day-Lewis, that name came so clearly to your mind, and you were so set on it. Why him above and beyond all these other actors?
When you see his work in every film that he has done, he's never played himself. He has such an interesting life. And to see, read his autobiography and to see what he has done to get to the levels of where he's at, all the sacrifices that he has made throughout his life, just to understand the craftsmanship of being an actor, deserves a sense of appreciation. And what's interesting is to read that even he had some starring roles in other films that were given to him, but he turned them down because of his own personal choices and beliefs. And to see to know that, that's a lot of respect. It's funny because he was on stage in the early 80s playing Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula, and he went to theater school with Gary Oldman, and he said he gave that role to Gary Oldman to do the role. And, of course, that started with Winona Ryder and Keanu Reeves. So I thought that was interesting. And to see that an actor can actually do something like that, that just, pays a lot of respect for that, a man like that.
What kind of sacrifices have you had to make in your own life as an actor?
Oh, wow. Let's see here. I've missed out on my best friend's weddings because of film shoots. I've detached myself from years of social atmosphere. And you go out and do your daily activities and spending time with your friends. Your friends get older as you, stay younger, I guess. But you don't realize how much you miss out when you're focusing on the work and focusing on the work as an actor. It all begins in the theater and your experiences. And for those who come to Los Angeles or go to New York to study acting, I just tell them, just take the bus, ride the bus. You never know what you're going to get. It's funny because Meryl Streep said, one of her biggest disappointments was not being able to ride the bus again because people were recognizing her in film. But, when you ride the metro system or the bus, you really deal with people and what their lives are really like. I remember taking the 207 bus from South Central Los Angeles to the midsection of LA, and we're pulled over by the cops. A cop came around the side of the bus with a shotgun, and there were like a couple of other cops that came right behind him, and they got everybody off the bus one by one. There was a man with a gun on the bus.
Oh.
But, yeah, so, you know, you think about that, and you think about circumstance like that, and you go, wow, so this is what it really feels like. So when you're on set, you know, having that kind of experience, you go, okay, I've been there, so I have an idea what it's like.
I'm a big fan of public transportation myself. I have never had police do anything like that of my bus or subway experiences.
Yeah, just one time I was on the bus, they had everyone take their luggage and whatnot out, and they had the dog sniffing them because apparently someone had something. But I never had anyone with a shotgun come after me.
Well, this is LA, so you never know what you're gonna get.
yeah, this is Boston. I did think it was really interesting what you said about Daniel Day-Lewis. He never plays himself, and I never thought of it that way, but there's a lot of actors that, you know, I actually really like, but it really is like them playing a role. Like you always see that person, they just happen to be in a movie, kind of playing themselves in that character, but Daniel Day-Lewis is a guy that really just becomes that character. It's not, you know, as you said, you know, Daniel Day-Lewis as Bill the Butcher. It's just he really becomes Bill the Butcher.
Right.
No, I thought it was very interesting to say.
I think it's really interesting as well. You were listing off names of actors, and someone that I think almost everyone universally loves is Jack Nicholson. Mm-hmm. But you love it because that's who he is. He plays that guy, and you love it. But it's funny because it's such a contrast to what you're saying about Daniel Day-Lewis. I'm not knocking Jack Nicholson's acting abilities by any stretch, but you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree with what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying, especially because of the fact of, you know, all these other actors that I named, they have the ability to transform. But what I do appreciate about Jack Nicholson is that he carries the level of intensity, and you see it in The Shining, and it's just that even The Departed. He is a freight train coming at you at 150 miles per hour. So it's great.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. It's been a great time talking to you.
Oh yeah, well, thank you guys. I mean, this is awesome.
Cool. Yeah, it was fun. Really happy we had you on the show, and definitely keep us posted. Let us know what's going on when things come up. You're always welcome back.
Well, thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to seeing the Human Centipede ties.
Hello, this is Lawrence R. Harvey, and you're listening to WithoutYourHead.com. Although how you're listening to WithoutYourHead.com without your head, I simply don't know.